Okay, welcome everyone. This is my Xcode Talker deck profile. So first and foremost, I'll try to make this brief, but I'd really like to thank everyone for viewing my videos and engaging in the comments lately. I love seeing your opinions and I really appreciate the support. If for whatever reason you hate my deck list, go ahead and drop a dislike and leave a reason why in the comments, because I read every single one of your guys' comments. As long as you're being respectful, I take all constructive criticism very seriously. And on the other hand, if you found this content helpful or educational or useful in any way, do me a favor and drop a like. It takes just a couple seconds and it makes a huge difference. Also, this will be a long one, so strap in, and if all you want is a deck list, feel free to pause and copy it, but if you'd like to understand why I took the cards I did and how to use them optimally, I recommend watching the entire video, as the deck profile will evaluate each card in the deck, and it'll include some budget, tech, and side deck options, as well as a few tips and tricks here and there. So if you don't have time to finish watching now, I highly recommend coming back later to finish watching the entire video, because it is definitely valuable information. And I apologize for the late upload, by the way. I had some technical difficulties, but I think I fixed them, and the sound quality should also be much better now. So without further ado, let's get into the deck profile. Dotscaper, this is a must. You send it to the graveyard using CodeGen, and it special summons itself to continue your combo. You gotta have this. 4 Mudskipper, this is also a must, because it searches for Gachiri at Ignister in the middle of your combo. Microcoder, this at 3 is mandatory. This is the bread and butter of your deck. It's both a combo starter and a superior extender, and also searches for your codec, your optimization, your mining, or your conflict, but we'll get into that in a little bit. I got one of each of Link Infraflyer and Cyberse Converter. These are some really great superior extenders with wider using conditions. There is a budget option for Cyberse Converter, as it is a super rare, but we'll get into that in a little bit. Nightmare Corruptor Iblee, I've got that at 2. Some people take 1, some people take 3. I take 2 because I think it's a happy middle ground in which I have a much better chance of opening Iblee, but it's not taking up too much space in my deck. So if you want an even better chance to get Iblee in your opening hand, you take 3. If you don't care about opening Iblee and you only need 1, just take 1. Just note that if you do take 1 and they manage to get rid of it, it could be difficult to replace it, but Iblee locking multiple times in a duel doesn't really come up very often, so it's purely preference. And if you don't know how Iblee works, it keeps your enemy from special summoning anything other than link monsters, and since you'll ideally be occupying both extra monster zones in what's called a U-Link or extra link, they won't be able to special summon at all. So this is a really cool card, and you definitely want to get this out as early as possible in your combo because it plays around Nibiru. For hand traps, you can take Joel and Lockbird, Maxx-C, Ghost Spell, it's budget option, Skullmeister, but personally I prefer 3 copies of Ash Blossom. We got the Salads package, Salamangreat, Foxy, Gazelle, and Spinny. These are additional extenders with wider using conditions and an extremely high ceiling. If you're still using the Shootingcode Talker like I used to, you can see up in the top right, you'll see a video pop up. That's one of the first Xcode Talker videos, maybe the first Xcode Talker video I dropped. Stop using Shootingcode. I'm gonna pull it up right now. The reason why is because, well, first of all, it does nothing, but second of all, it's a water attribute, which means you'd have to use water extenders, and the water extenders suck, especially compared to Salads, and these will become even more relevant once we get Heat Soul, so definitely put these in your deck. Code Generator. This is a must like Microcoder, but I only take 2 code gens because it's easily searchable using Codec's effect on Transcode Talker. Gadget. Cyberse Gadget is an additional tech extender that can be searched with Xcode Talker inverted if necessary, like say you already got your 4 Mudskipper. And it can also serve as a combo starter. It is an ultra rare, so Clock Wyvern could be a good budget option. I'll pull that up. Clock Wyvern could be a good budget option as it's only a rare. The problem is Clock Wyvern can be countered by hand traps because it can't chain block, unlike Gadget, so Gadget does have the advantage there. In addition, it's also a wind attribute, which means it can only be searched using Update Jammer, while Cyberse Gadget, again, it can be searched using your Xcode Talker inverted. And also it's got that second effect, so it summons a token which allows it to be used as a starter when combined with Microcoder or Codec. Lady Debug, I've got this at 3 because combined with Cynet Codec or Microcoder, it's arguably your best starter. It can also be used to bait out hand traps at the beginning of a combo if you already have what you need to combo. So definitely taking 3 of this is mandatory. Mathmech Sigma is required because it's possible that you hard draw Dotscaper, unfortunately, so you'd have to send Sigma to the graveyard with the code gen, and it's also a superior extender by itself. For instance, if you have Codec and Linkslayer and Sigma in your hand at the same time, what you could do is special summon Linkslayer because you have no monsters, special summon Sigma because you have no monsters in Extra Zone, and then that combined with Codec goes into your Xcode Talker. That's your combo, ladies and gents. So speaking of Linkslayer, on its own, it's a superior extender with quite a low ceiling, but it can also fix a Dotscaper hand if you're going second by sending the Dotscaper to the graveyard and popping a back row. Just make sure that they have a spell or trap that you might end up popping, or make sure that they have a spell or trap, or you might end up popping your own Codec, which would not be good. If they don't have one and you still need to ditch a Dotscaper, what you could do is you could play something like, let's say you don't need a mining, you could set the mining and then use the Linkslayer to just pop the mining. But yeah, what else we got? We got Excede, Parallel Excede. This is an additional extender, but it's a required combo piece, and it has an extremely high ceiling. Taking this at 2 is mandatory. You don't need 3, but you do need 2. Gachiri, this is a required combo piece, and it ideally will protect your Firewall Dragon until the end of the opponent's turn. Monster Reborn, this is obviously a superior extender. You can't go wrong with this in your deck, and fun fact, it's also my favorite Yu-Gi-Oh card of all time. 1 for 1, this is a potential starter and an extender, so it's a no-brainer. Cynet Mining, this is a good anti-brick searcher, and it can salvage a hand that has both Dotscaper and Sigma in it. Sanctuary. So Salamangreat Sanctuary is a must because this prevents your opponent from crashing the Iblee lock. A lot of people don't understand what that means or how this works. So let's say you've got your U-Link or your Extra Link with an Iblee lock, and they try to put it into attack position and crash into your Balelynx. At this point, you can make you pay 1,000 life points and you make your Balelynx equal to 0 attack, so it keeps both of them on the field and it prevents that. And then let's say, okay, so your Balelynx is a little bit more vulnerable. It doesn't matter because you got one in your graveyard to banish in case they do actually manage to kill it. So that's why you take 2 Balelynx. Optimization, this is an additional extender but required combo piece with a fairly high ceiling. Codec, this is an additional extender, but definitely a required combo piece, and it has an extremely high ceiling. If Microcoder was your bread, then this is your butter, you guys. You absolutely need this card in your deck. It's mandatory to combo, because every time you link summon a new attribute, you'll get to search that attribute and then add it to your hand. So this is the card that keeps giving you extenders throughout your combo, and you have to have it at 3. Called by the Grave is semi-limited to 2, or we would take 3 of this, because a single Ash Blossom can completely ruin a turn. Like, most of the time you will be chain blocking to play around hand traps, but let's say you couldn't and they managed to get one through, then your turn is basically over, unless you have Called by the Grave, of course. It's also really useful for Maxx-C because this deck special summons a lot, and ideally you don't want to be taking the Maxx-C challenge if you can help it. Like, the Extra Link Iblee lock is an extremely powerful board, and I know I called it unbreakable in one of my videos, but nothing in Yu-Gi-Oh is truly unbreakable, and the more cards your opponent starts with, the better chance of them at least partially breaking your board. And finally, I got a single copy of Cynet Conflict. Solemn Judgment can be used instead of this. If we pull that up, Solemn Judgment is really powerful. You just pay half your life points and it's an Omni Negate, and it can also negate summons, which it does have over Conflict. Let's go over the pros and cons though and why I took this. So there are times when you already have your Codec and your optimization and you don't need mining, or you have Codec and you have extenders and you don't need optimization because they don't have hand traps, in which case you can search Conflict, and since it is a permanent Omni Negate and it has no LP costs, I personally find it worth taking, but this is purely preference. And you only hard draw Codec in a third of your games, and You only open codec and optimization in less than 4% of your games, so you really only want to take that. This is only if you really want to take that chance. Personally, I think it's a cool card and I like it, so I'm running one, but it's up to you. I take Conflict because I think that if they're both one-ofs with an equal probability of being hard drawn, but one of them can be searched in niche scenarios, I think it's worth taking that. The only problem with Conflict is that it does require having a Code Talker on the board. In other words, Conflict on its own is completely useless, while Solemn Judgment on its own is quite valuable. But the way I see it is if you're playing Code Talker and you don't have a Code Talker of some form on the field, you weren't going to win that duel anyway. So before we go any further, I just want to address some staples that don't really fit into this deck. So you got Raigeki, Lightning Storm, Nibiru and Imperm and Evenly Matched. You got MST, Twin T, Cosmic C. You got Kaiju's Dark Ruler No More, Forbidden Droplet and Chalice, Psyframe Gear Gamma. These are all better suited for going second and are much more likely to brick your starting hand than actually help, in my opinion, as this is obviously a going first deck list. That being said, let's look at some budget and tech options for the main deck. We got Backup Secretary. This card looks absolutely sick. It's beautiful, especially glossy. However, it is not as good as Cyberse Converter. It's a budget option because it's only a normal, and if you don't have the CPSR for Converter, it can fill that slot for now. It's not as good, and here's why. Because it's a level 3, while Cyberse Converter is a level 2, which means that unlike Converter, Backup Secretary cannot be linked off into Talkback Lancer as it requires a level 2 or lower monster. That's why we take the Converter, but it's a good budget option. Grid Sweeper. Grid Sweeper is a really interesting card. This is an interesting tech because it can get rid of extremely problematic cards such as Skill Drain. I don't take it, but it is absolutely valid, and if we ever get a best of 3 format, I will definitely be putting this into my side deck. Scrypton. Scrypton is another really cool looking normal rarity card. It's a budget option. However, it's an additional extender with a low ceiling, and it's only really viable if you can get the search with Shootingcode, or if you already have Gachiri in your hand, I guess, when you search with 4 Mudskipper, but that's kind of niche. And Shootingcode Talker and Code Radiator are terrible. They both suck. And Sea Archiver does nothing on its own or with even just one extender. So it's not worth taking Shootingcode or Water Extenders at all. If you can help it, that is. And then Rivalry of Warlords. This is... it can completely shut down a lot of top tier decks such as Trizu and Bird Up, and since all of your monsters are Cyberse type, it doesn't negatively impact you whatsoever. So this is a really cool tech card you can add. I would put it in my side deck again if we get a best of 3, but not in my main deck because if they do all have the same type, then it's useless. So that about sums up my main deck. Before we go into the extra deck, if you've been watching this far into the video, I want to give you a special thanks in the comments, so do me a favor and comment your favorite card in the entire Cyberse archetype. It can be a Code Talker, it can be a Salamangreat, it can be a spell or a trap, whatever you want, as long as it's part of the archetype or support for it. I'll go first. Mine is definitely Firewall Dragon. I call me basic for it being my main boss monster, and yes, I'm biased because I got the royal finish. To be honest, if I hadn't pulled this royal finish, I never would have been playing this deck, so that's definitely my favorite. So let's get on to the extra deck. We got the Link Devotee. This is an incredibly powerful extender because it can be combined with Talkback Lancer to bring back Transcode from the graveyard and summon 2 Link tokens to the field to use as material to complete your actual Link with. So just keep in mind that it is 2, not up to 2, so you will need 2 free monster zones, and at that point in the combo, you'll be using up 3, so make sure to wait until after you tribute Link Devotee before you summon any additional extenders on the field, and if you do have any on the field already, before you go and tribute it using Talkback Lancer, make sure that you clear up the field with like a Balelynx or something. We got Talkback Lancer brings back your it's a 2-in-1. It tributes the Link Devotee, which triggers that effect, and it brings back your Transcode, which you linked off earlier. So it's a must in the combo. You got Balelynx. I got 2 Balelynx. Again, this is so you can use the graveyard effect to banish it in case they do find a way to kill your Balelynx. Code Talker, this is the one that you'll start your combo with most of the time. I take it at 2. This is important because if you need Iblee still and you didn't get Codec on the board the first time you summon Code Talker, since it's dark, it can search Iblee. Wicckid. Cyberse Wicckid is a really powerful card for protection, and if you want, Linguriboh is an option instead of this. If you know your opponent is playing a trap-heavy deck like Nurse Burn, for example, or if you really hate Eldritch, but Wicckid is the more universal option, that's why I take that. Update Jammer is great for OTKs if you link it in Accesscode, so that's nice. Inverted. Inverted is necessary for the combo because you can chainlink 1 Code Talker Inverted, chainlink 2 Cyberse Codec, and then use the Codec on the Inverted to search for Mudskipper, and use the Inverted to immediately special summon the 4 Mudskipper to the field. You do need a Cyberse monster in your hand already beforehand in order to pull this off, but assuming you did your combo correctly, that should be the case regardless. Splash Mage can be used to combo in more niche scenarios, such as when you start with Gadget and Codec in your hand by linking Gadget into Balelynx, and then using Gadget's effect to get the token on the board, then linking Balelynx and the token into Splash Mage to bring back Gadget, and then go straight into your Transcode. So that's an option. Xcode Talker, this is a really awesome card. It's a mandatory part of your combo, and it's really cool because it shuts down one of your opponent's monster zones completely. And so combined with the extra link Iblee lock, they'll only have 3 monster zones total to work with. Transcode Talker. I got Transcode Talker at 2 because it can come up where you need another if your board is broken, but at least one of this card is mandatory for your combo. Firewall Dragon, this is your main boss monster in your extra link combo. Iblee prevents your opponent from special summoning, and the Iblee extra link prevents them from doing any special summon whatsoever. So this also takes that one step further so that they can't normal summon, because if they normal summon, it can just get bounced straight back to their hand. It is a one-time effect, but it's a really cool effect. Finally, you guys knew it was coming. Accesscode Talkers, your big bad finisher. If you're looking to finish your enemy off, if you're going second and looking to OTK, this is the card you use, guys. This is the card everyone knows and loves. It goes really well in multiple decks, and it should go without saying that Accesscode Talker is a must in the Code Talker deck. Now, before I sign off, guys, let's take a look at some of the tech options in the extra deck. As I said, Linguriboh is an option instead of Wicckid. It's totally preference. I just like Wicked's versatility a little bit more. Also, I like that it goes down and to the right because it conveniently goes in the top left monster zone. But Linguriboh is an option, especially if you hate Eldritch or if you just want to go against Eldritch. Trigate Wizard. Whoops. I hate that you can't just click to get to the end. So Trigate Wizard, you have my respect if you use this card. I don't like this card personally, but it can be useful in scenarios where the opponent has a native means to get rid of Iblee. It's good going first against Eldritch and Sky Strikers, but it does take up 2 universal tech slots because you need to take this and Secure Gardna, and it requires a more elaborate combo, and it uses up most of your extra deck to set it up, and it's often just unnecessary. So I don't take it, but it is valid. And finally, you got Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax. Avramax is a really cool card, and it's very powerful. A lot of decks have trouble outing this card. The problem is it doesn't replace Firewall or Accesscode. So if you're gonna take this in your deck, it's got to replace the Update Jammer over anything. Even though it's a Link 4, it does replace the Update Jammer, not either of your Link 4 monsters. So before I go, I just want to go ahead and give a special shout out and a huge thanks to Misplaymaker, Code Talker, Fan, and Paradox from the Cynet Codec Discord. All of the information in this video is thanks to these good people. They're much better Yu-Gi-Oh players than I am, and I'm sure if I made a mistake in this video, they will not hesitate to call me out in the comments. I made sure to drop Misplaymaker's socials, and I got a link to Code Talker's Code Talker 101 Google Doc in the description. Check that out, you guys. It's a super useful resource, has tips and combos, and it's being regularly updated. So that about wraps up my video. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate all my viewers so much. I'm sure Master Duel content will be coming soon some more, and I also play other games, so if you've enjoyed this content, be sure to subscribe and trigger the notification bell so you never miss another video. This is one more reminder to hit that like. This is GoBlueHCB signing off, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Goodbye.